packing faux pas, poor flight planning, and upside down pineapples. It is Sunday, October 19th, 2025, and on this week's edition of Sunday Sofa Time, we're talking about the worst advice you could give to first-time cruisers.
Just like the wind, just let it pass through, just let it pass you.
I'm Morgan from the very unofficial Travel Guides. I've been making travel videos now for over 15 years of popular and not so popular tourist destinations to give you a very honest, unofficial look at what it's like to be there. And my two books, Getting Stitches on a Cruise Ship and Places Please, have been read by thousands of travel and theater fans around the world. If you like to read and want to give me a little extra support, check them out on Amazon now. Here on the very unofficial Travel Guides, I have spent a lot of time and energy trying to inform and entertain you about the best way to plan and enjoy your travels. And as it so happens, a lot of the over 700 videos that I've now posted here on this platform are dealing with cruising, cruise ships, and everything that has to do with this type of vacation. Most of the time, I want to help you, but today we're doing the opposite, and we're doing it just for fun, so just remember, this is a joke. And in fact, because I know how the internet works, and I don't want anybody to like cut a snippet out of this video and make a new video out of it, I'm gonna put like a little disclaimer watermark in here so it's very clear I'm not serious. So here we go with the worst advice you could give to first-time cruisers. All right, let me tell you two really top ways to save some money on your first cruise. The first one is something we've talked about before. The second one is something that's very new to me. I would recommend flying to the cruise port city with a flight that lands as close as possible to the time that the ship is gonna depart. This is a great way to save money because if you fly there the day before, you're not only gonna have to pay for a taxi to the hotel, a taxi from the hotel to the port, the hotel all together, and then dinner and breakfast. If you can set it up that you can go directly from the airport to the ship, think of all the money you're gonna save. No extra hotel, no extra food, it's just flight, cruise. Perfect. The next thing is something that you probably haven't heard of before, but one of the best ways to get a great deal on a cruise is to just go to the port on the day of the cruise and ask for the last minute cabin deals. Now, not every cruise line does this. It's just like the theaters on Broadway. Sometimes if you're waiting at the box office like a half an hour before the show begins, they'll just start selling all the tickets that are left for the performance that night at a discounted rate. Well, cruise ships have started to do that now too. So pack all your stuff, fly to Miami, go to the port, walk up to the ship and just ask them what is the best deal they can give you for the cabins they have available today. One great advantage of this is usually there are more than one ship in port, so you can kind of get a sense of who's going to give you the best deal, and if there's like one ship that you really want to be on but the other ship gives you a better deal, you can use that to kind of bargain with them and maybe get them to take the price down even lower. Of course, this does require you to be a little bit more flexible, but it is a great way to save some money on your cruise. This is something that if you haven't cruised before, you also might not know, but many cruise ports also will allow you to issue or renew a passport or other form of government ID. Obviously, you're going to need some kind of identification to board the cruise ship, and if your passport or ID is expired or missing, you can kind of like kill two birds with one stone by just getting that done in the cruise port. It's super convenient. When you get there to check in, you just let them know you need to renew your ID and they will send you in the right direction, which is back home. First of all, as far as clothes go, you absolutely cannot wear the same thing twice on a cruise. Everybody's gonna know, it's gonna be completely embarrassing, and you might have to pay a fine. You need to bring the biggest suitcase possible, pack as many clothes as possible. If it's a 5-night cruise, you're gonna need at least 7 outfits, at least 14 t-shirts, 4 or 5 bathing suits. And speaking of packing, when I mentioned on social media that I was going to be making an update of this video, a lot of you sent in some really friendly, helpful suggestions on things you can bring with to make your first cruise more enjoyable. Some of these were an iron for your clothes, a Bluetooth speaker so you can blast your favorite tunes on the balcony, candles, an electronic water cooker kettle thing, a hot plate to warm up your leftovers, fishing rods, and if you have one, a charcoal grill. And usually cruise cabins don't have a lot of possibilities to plug things in or charge devices, so bring one of these multi-plug heavy duty extension cords, because because that's just going to make your life so much easier. All right, so those are all things that you should pack. Here are some things that you should not pack. The first one being sunscreen. The UV rays of the sun only affect your skin if land is underneath you. This is one reason why cruising, especially like to Mexico or the Caribbean, is so enjoyable. When you're outside and the ship is not on land, you cannot get a sunburn. You can spend as much time outside in the sun as you want, and you're gonna be fine. Another thing I would suggest you leave at home is any kind of important medications, and here's why. You can get all that stuff on board the ship, and for really affordable prices. Oh, speaking of medications and things that are different while you are out at sea, once the boat leaves the port, you are in international waters and it's basically no rules. Any kind of drugs that would be illegal on land, not illegal out at sea. You are on vacation now, go out on that balcony, spark one up, and if there's no ashtray out there when you're done smoking, just flick it overboard. The fish will thank you. Okay, now let's talk about the cabin. Once you board the cruise, you're going to be spending most of the time on board in your cabin. That's why it's important to book the biggest cabin category that you can possibly afford, and if you need to, take out a loan. Some insider tips I can give you about the best places to choose a cabin would be any place directly below the pool deck, or if your ship has some kind of nightclub or live music venue, any place as close as possible to that. However, if you're a little weary because this is your first time at sea and you don't know if you're going to be able to take the motion of the ocean, then I would suggest booking an inside cabin on a very low deck as far forward in the ship as possible. That's probably where you're gonna feel the most snug and secure. If it is your first cruise, and if you're a little bit weary about how things work on board, there is a way that you can give the crew and other cruisers on board a sign. We're new here, we might need a little extra help, and that is bring a picture of a pineapple and put it upside down on the front of your cabin door. That has just somehow become the international symbol. We're new here. If anybody has any friendly tips, just knock on our door. We would love to hear them. Sometime towards the beginning of the cruise, they are going to announce something called the muster drill. Some people like to go to this, but you actually don't have to. It's completely optional. If you decide you don't want to go to this, then the best thing to do is go to your cabin, shut the door, and if somebody knocks, don't answer. That's how they know, okay, we're gonna leave them alone. They're not coming to the safety drill. After the safety drill, the fun moment comes where you sail away from land for the first time and head out to sea, and regardless of where you are on the ship, you may start to feel the motion of the ocean. If you do notice yourself starting to feel a little bit queasy, a little bit seasick, the best thing to do is grab a cocktail. The more alcohol you have in your blood, the less sensitive you will become to seasickness, especially the next day. We're all adults here, we all know what it feels like to have a hangover, and I can tell you
from experience
that a cruise ship in a storm or rough seas is the best place to sleep off a hangover. All those waves, the feeling that your bed is constantly moving from left to right, that headache and nausea is just going to melt away. By the way, the cabin walls in cruise ships, especially older ships, are traditionally very soundproof. You, and especially your kids or grandkids, can and should be as loud as you want at all times. And in fact, there is an age-old cruise ship game called Who Can Slam the Door the Loudest? Don't forget to play that with everybody in your cabin before you leave the ship, and remember, it's bonus points if you play before 8 a.m. or after midnight. Okay, here's something very important, and I brought something to show you. This is a daily cruise planner. It's like a little newspaper that you may get on some days of your cruise, and there's some important things that you need to know about this. First of all, not everybody gets these. They don't go to every cabin. So if you are selected to receive one of these, it's very important that you take a look at the activities listed inside. You can see all these activities. This is a curated list of everything the crew has planned specifically for you and the people in your cabin for that day. And they are expecting you, and you are required to go to everything on the list. If you don't or can't make it to everything, you might have to pay a penalty. So make sure you take a very long look at everything that's listed here and go to every single thing. It's important. Now, sometimes because of weather, because of scheduling problems, or other reasons that are usually not really that important, there may be activities that are canceled, or sometimes they even cancel an entire stop at a port. If this happens on your cruise, the best thing to do is find a crew member and scream at them. Go to guest relations, raise your voice. The louder you become, the more chance you'll have that they will change it back to what it was originally supposed to be. It's just common knowledge that that's how it works. Now let's talk about food. It is common knowledge that modern cruise ships do not offer a lot of variety when it comes to culinary experiences. The trend has become less and less and less restaurants, food options. They no longer cater to different tastes. It's more and more difficult to find anything for special dietary needs. And a lot of the food does not offer any kind of sustenance and also very few calories on board. If you are lucky enough to get on one of the few cruise ships left that still offers a buffet style restaurant, and most don't nowadays, then I have a really great food hack for you. I recommend mixing a bunch of soft serve ice cream with a bowl of mashed potatoes. It's creamy, it's savory and sweet, and it will really fill you up until the next meal. You're welcome. The people who work on board cruise ships are called crew. So it's like crew from cruise. So it's like the bartender, the security officers, the people who clean your cabin, the people who are singing and dancing in the musicals. These people basically get paid to be on vacation. The cruise lines think it's very important that you make them work for their money, and they do get paid a ton of money. So make sure you give them plenty to do, because otherwise, what are they even getting paid for? Oh, and this is something that I didn't realize on my first cruise, and I definitely want to share this with you. If you need anything from a crew member, make sure you ask for it before the end of their shift. They really only work just a couple hours a day, and then they go home. They don't get back on the ship until the next morning. And if you miss them, then you're out of luck. They have it so easy. Gosh, I want to work on a cruise ship. If you're lucky enough to get on a cruise ship that has a spa, and not many of them do, I highly recommend going there on the first day and asking for a tour. And here's why. They're going to show you around. They're going to introduce you to the different doctors and specialists who work on board. They're going to take a look at you, and if they see it necessary, they're going to suggest some treatments for you. If they do that, well, that means you really need these treatments, and you should book them immediately. They wouldn't offer it to you if you didn't need it, and you are not going to get a better price on land. Also, after you've had your treatment, after they've spent some time with you, they might realize there's a couple other things you need, and if they suggest it, that means you need it. Do not hesitate to say yes. Now, if you're really unlucky, you're going to end up on one of these cruises that stops in a lot of places instead of just stays out on the ocean all the time. You just keep stopping at like islands and beaches and ports. It's like, why am I even on a boat? But if you do feel like you want to leave the boat for a few hours in the middle of the cruise, remember to leave all your valuables and payment methods in the safe on the ship. You're going to get a little card when you board the ship. That's what you can use to open the cabin, to pay for anything on the ship. And when you're on a cruise, you can also use it to pay for anything in the port close to where the ship is, as long as the internet connection can still meet up with the ship. And if you're in a port where there are a lot of really great things right next to the ship to explore, like Nassau or Civitavecchia, Italy, if you decide you want to stay a little bit longer than the time they said you should be back on board, just remember that all on board time is really just a suggestion. Everybody's there for the same reason. If some people decide that they want to stay a little bit longer, then the ship stays longer. Stay as long as you want. The ship will be waiting for you when you get back. I mean, you paid for it. They better. Eventually the time will come and it will be the last day of your cruise. This is where flight booking comes in again, and my advice to you, book the earliest flight possible so you can also go directly from the cruise port to the airport. If you can get like a 9:30, 10 o'clock flight, that is the best. If you can't make that work and your flight is at like 7 in the evening, well, the good thing is you can just leave all your stuff in your cabin and enjoy the ship until you need to leave. Go up to the pool deck, relax into the sun until like 4 in the afternoon, then go back down to the cabin, grab your stuff, and head out to the airport. You just obviously have to be off the ship before the next cruise begins, but if you spontaneously decide that you want to stay, then you just need to go to guest relations and let them know you're going to extend. What did I miss? Usually this is the point of the video where I say, I hope all these tips helped you. And I know that a lot of people wrote in with other things that I didn't include in the video. It was a lot of fun to read through what you guys wrote. And I mean, just imagine like seriously telling any of these things to somebody planning a cruise. I almost feel like this could almost be like a joke book idea. And then not just about cruising, but about cruising and travel in general. What are some ways to make sure you have the worst time possible? Well, even though these haven't really been travel tips, I still hope you enjoyed spending this part of your Sunday, or whatever day it is, with me here on the red sofa. Oh, by the way, I am now allowed to not wear my brace all day, but it still hurts. I still can't do all the things I used to be able to do, but I'm dealing with it. And I am Morgan from the Very Unofficial Travel Guides, and I hope to see you back here soon. Bye-bye.